Joshua Van. He represents speed and activity with a style built on movement, volume, and constant engagement. His pace allows him to overwhelm opponents who struggle to keep up, especially in a division where speed is already a major factor. He is comfortable throwing combinations and staying active throughout the fight, which creates constant pressure. His biggest weakness is that this high output style can leave openings, particularly against fighters with strong timing and counter-striking ability. When he becomes too aggressive, those openings can be exploited by more experienced opponents who are waiting for those exact moments. His bout against Charles Johnson proved this, stunning Van with a crisp punch followed by a huge uppercut that led to the knockdown. He pounded and got the knockout at the 0-20 mark of round 3. This matters because efficiency often becomes more important than volume at higher levels, where every exchange carries greater risk, and Johnson just made an example out of Joshua.
Peter Yan. He is a technical striker who builds momentum as fights progress, often starting at a measured pace while collecting information. His style focuses on accuracy, defense, and clean combinations that become more effective over time. As the fight goes on, he increases pressure and begins to control exchanges more clearly. His biggest weakness is his tendency to give away early rounds while making those adjustments. Against disciplined opponents, this can create a scoring deficit that is difficult to recover from, even if he performs better in later rounds. A nice and clear example of this was his fight against Sean O'Malley, where even though a lot of people thought he won, Sean started off strong with good combinations and solid pressure, and due to the bout only being 3 rounds, Yan didn't have enough time to work his way up the scorecards. This matters because modern scoring systems reward early success just as much as late momentum, and falling behind early can change the entire structure of a fight.
Alexander Volkanovski. He is defined by discipline, adaptability, and high level fight IQ, allowing him to adjust to different opponents and situations. His ability to control range, manage pace, and make real time adjustments has been key to his success over multiple fights. He rarely relies on one single strength, instead, building his performance around consistency and smart decision making. His biggest weakness is the cumulative effect of long title reigns and repeated high level competition. Over time, even the most durable fighters begin to show signs of wear, whether through reaction speed, durability, or recovery. Against younger, fresher opponents, those small differences can become more noticeable. For example, on his fight against Ilia Topuria, the now lightweight champion and a tremendous power puncher, Volkanovski decided to take a fight with him only 4 months after being brutally knocked out by Islam's Makhachev head kick, which made him prone to getting knocked out again. This matters because longevity in the sport often comes with physical trade-offs that can impact performance at the highest level. Ilia Topuria. He is a well-rounded fighter with sharp boxing and strong grappling, allowing him to stay effective in multiple phases of a fight. His striking is confident and precise, often built around clean combinations and forward pressure. He is comfortable engaging at close range, which adds to his aggressive style. His biggest weakness is that no willingness to stay in the pocket for extended exchanges, even against dangerous opponents. Even though he's still undefeated, some opponents have been able to rock him and capitalize on this tendency. Jai Herbert is a prime example of this, dropping him with a flush head kick that stunned the champion on their fight back in 2022. While this creates opportunities for him, it also increases the risk of being caught by well-timed counters. Against fighters with equal or greater power, those moments can become turning points in a fight. This matters because small mistakes at the highest level can have immediate consequences, especially when both fighters are capable of ending the fight with a single exchange.
Islam Makhachev. He relies on control, positioning, and efficient grappling to wear opponents down over time. His approach is calculated, focusing on minimizing risk while steadily building dominance through takedowns and positional control. He rarely rushes, instead choosing to break opponents down gradually until opportunities present themselves. His biggest weakness is dealing with opponents who can neutralize his grappling while also threatening him on the feet. A good example is his first fight with Alexander Volkanovski. Even though Islam won, he faced a lot of trouble on the fight, and even a lot of people, though he didn't do enough to secure the win. On his current division, Ian Gary or Michael Morales could give Islam lots of trouble, not just because they are bigger, but because they also have great striking and have good takedown defense, making it harder for Islam to work. When his control is challenged or delayed, the fight becomes more competitive and forces him into exchanges where the margin for error is smaller. While his striking has improved, it is still an area that becomes more important when his primary game is disrupted. This matters because the highest level of competition often involves fighters who can defend well enough to force uncomfortable scenarios. Khamzat Chimaev. He brings relentless pressure and dominant wrestling, often overwhelming opponents from the very beginning of the fight. His style is built on intensity, immediately pushing forward and forcing exchanges that favor his grappling. He rarely allows opponents to settle into their rhythm, which creates chaos and opens opportunities for control and damage. His biggest weakness is how much energy his style can require, especially in longer fights where that same intensity becomes harder to maintain. A good example of this was his fight against Gilbert Burns and Kumaru Usman. Both of them were very familiar with grappling and had arguably better cardio than the current champ.
And weren't afraid of pushing the pace. While Gilbert won the second round by pressing the gas and moving forward, he ended up losing momentum in the final one, thus losing a decision, while Kumaru was the opposite, starting really slow and getting dominated in the first round in Kamzat style fashion, to later on putting a great fight on the later two. When opponents survive the early pressure, his pace can slow and his movements become more predictable. In those moments, more experienced fighters can begin to find openings and shift the momentum. Many say that his next scheduled opponent, Sean Strickland, can dethrone Kamzat. This because he has good takedown defense, really solid and composed striking, and gas tank for ages. This matters because championship level fights often require adjustments and energy management over multiple rounds, not just early dominance. Alex Pereira, he is built around elite striking with a background in kickboxing that gives him precision and knockout power few can match. His left hook is one of the most dangerous weapons in the sport, delivered with timing and control rather than wild aggression. He stays composed under pressure, which allows him to capitalize on small mistakes and turn them into fight ending moments. To be honest, it was quite difficult to find a noticeable hole on Pereira's game, but what I mainly got from all his fights was that his biggest weakness lies in his grappling defense, especially against high level wrestlers who can consistently close distance and control him on the ground. While he has improved over time, the gap between his striking and grappling is still noticeable at the highest level. Fighters who can survive his striking and impose a grappling heavy game plan force him into uncomfortable positions where his strengths are less effective. The first fight against Magomed Ankalaev proved this. Even though it was a pretty competitive fight, Ankalaev just squished Pereira a lot of times against the cage and imposed his pressure. This matters because mixed martial arts rewards versatility, and any clear imbalance can be targeted by the right opponent with the right strategy.
Tom Aspinall. He is known for his speed and well rounded skill set, which is rare in the heavyweight division, where most fighters rely on power alone. His ability to close distance quickly and finish fights early makes him extremely dangerous, often ending fights before opponents can settle in. His background in both boxing and jiu-jitsu allows him to switch between striking and grappling without hesitation, which adds another layer to his threat. However, his biggest weakness is the lack of long, high pressure fights against elite competition. Because many of his wins come quickly, there are still questions about how he performs when pushed into later rounds against experienced opponents who can survive his early offense. In his last cancelled bout against Cyril Gain, we saw a glimpse of that. When Tom was having trouble getting close to Gain and was eating his jabs for the entirety of round one, he actually looked human and made us all wonder what could have happened if Gain never eye poked him. In those situations, pacing, cardio management, and decision making under fatigue become much more important. And those are areas that have not been fully tested yet. This matters because heavyweight fights can change dramatically after the first few minutes, especially when power becomes less effective and endurance takes over.
Well, if you want to see more technical breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe and drop any suggestions in the comments. Peace.